So, first of all, on behalf of Geo Heritage Uttarakhand, I request Dr. Parcha to welcome our guest in today's program. Dr. Parcha, please.
Yes, yes. Good evening to all. Today we are privileged that we are having with us Dr. Ravi Kumar, and known to all of us, particularly today when I was came to know that he is alumni of this DBS college. So uh, I was thrilled, and I thought that it is a great privilege for all of us to listen you, and already we know you and your work which you are doing for the Jewish heritage from last so many years, and you are on the national level and on international level, and particularly, and you know this, we are working in GSI and then in Jaipur, and then you have developed. Now present day also you are in secretary OSGO and are very much concerned about the Geo heritage. And all of us, we have Professor Diraj Banerjee, Professor Azmi, all of you senior people are here. And for us, as well as for the new generations, it's very interesting to listen from you, because you have an enormous wealth of these Geo heritage sites, their ifs and buts, they are all whatever you have collected. I have listened to your so many lectures, and I know that now you have full length of the all over India, all the data with you. And with this, I don't want to take so much of time. I want that you give your own presentation to our new generations so that they will be fully involved in it, because now present day generation, they have to take the baton with us forward. Whatever you did, we are following it, and now they have to follow it. It is now their turn. So I request you, Dr. Biani, to introduce you, because he knows you much better than me, and since you are from the same alumni and some from college, so I will request him to introduce you.
So, I feel today very much privileged to introduce Mr. V. Ravi Kumar sir. He was one of the outstanding alumni of DBS College Dehradun. And today, in fact, along with Ravi Kumar sir, we have Bhattacharya sir, and also very soon Praveen Notialji will also join this program. And this trio was very famous in 1970-72 batch. So I once again welcome to Ravi Kumar sir. And my interaction with sir is about 2 decades old. When he visited DBS college along with his friends when he was here in IIRS training, or some program was there. And since then, we have developed a very good bonding with him. Uh, as far as biodata is concerned, it will be something like to show a diya to sun. So it is very inappropriate for me to describe Ravi Kumar sir. As far as I know, he is an outstanding geologist of the Geological Survey of India. Soon after passing out from DBS College, he joined the Geological Survey of India, and there he undertook various responsibility in different type of climatic condition and topographical condition. He visited Jammu Glacier, he visited North Sikkim, there he did geological work. From there to he visited Odisha, there he did geological mapping in Koraput, that is the thick forested area and problematic area of our country, as well as he did marvelous work in assessing the Panchpat bauxite deposit, which is the India's largest and probably second largest in the world. He is the main person who investigated that. Besides that, when he returned to his state, there he did the, of course, uh, this placer survey in Andhra and Odisha coast. Besides that, he also mapped the polymetallic nodules in Central Indian Basin. So this right from the bottom of the sea to top of the Himalaya, that is Jammu Glacier. This was the wide-ranging field where uh, Dr. Ravi Kumar has shown or outshined himself as a outstanding geologist. And ultimately, he retired as director Training Institute of Hyderabad, Geological Survey of India's Institute. And after that, his retirement was actually not retirement. He involved himself, first of all, in open source software, OSGeo, Geospatial, open source Geospatial. There he was secretary for a very long time. And there he conducted more than 100 class for different organization in different institution, how the open source software can be used without any hassles. Besides that, he was the he was on the board of directors of International Open Source Geo Society. Then at present, he is the guiding light of our Geo Heritage organization. A few days back, when he has shown that he is willing to join the Uttarakhand chapter, I was overwhelmed by his response and his attachment to the Uttarakhand. And I said, not only you will join the Uttarakhand Geo Heritage Society, but you will also have to deliver a lecture on this. And he readily agreed. So within few days' time, this lecture is before you. And now, with this brief introduction of my esteemed senior colleague of the department, I request Sri Ravi Kumar sir to deliver his talk on this geoheritage, geotourism, and geopark, which is in the core of his heart. Thank you very much, sir.
I'm very thankful to Dr. Parcha and Professor Biani for speaking some good words about me. I really wish that I was all that he explained. Today's talk is about geoheritage of Uttarakhand. This talk will not be dealing in depth about geology because the topic is geoheritage and geotourism and how geotourism can be practically inserted into the tourism circuits already prevailing in Dehradun area. Dehradun area is with a very high tourist footfall. And I believe that Dehradun with the Himalayas and so many good institutions in the same city, Dehradun has got a wonderful chance to show us the way when it comes to geotourism. Because in Dehradun, during winter, also tourists come, and during summer also, of course, they go to Mussoorie and Himalayas for treks and all that. So it has got tourist footfalls almost nearly 8 to 10 months in a year. So I will try my best, and my main focus will be to use available technology, mainly mobile technology, so that we can make geotourism possible. So any person who can use a mobile phone among the tourists, we will make things available to him so that he can easily go on the tour, and if required, he will take our guidance, and maybe God willing, one day we will have bus services for geotourism, and we can take them around and all that. So with this, uh, I, I start my presentation. I know that very honorable senior professors are there on this meeting, and I start my meeting with a heartfelt namaskar to all of them. So I'm going to start because this is to inspire the younger generation. That's why I got a 3D of India and something that has made headlines not even a week ago, less than a week ago. I think I have given enough hints. UNESCO heritage sites. We had a bonanza of 2 UNESCO heritage sites less than a week ago. Really, it's a great news for all geo-heritage lovers. This is the congratulatory message. And then this is from Telangana. the temple is known as Ramappa Temple. It has got bigger names also, but the locals call it with a very simple name, Ramappa Temple. So I will go with that name for the time being. This is the 39th geoheritage site in India. 39. And after this site was given, very soon it followed with another site, which is in the Kutch region, in fact, Ran of Kutch region. And this is the 40th. Its name is Dholavira. One towards Bay of Bengal, one towards the Arabian Sea. Great. You see, we are now in the Olympics. For those who love geoheritage, it is like winning gold medals. And I want to focus something very important. Both the sites, as you can see, they are archaeological sites. Archaeology. And this Dholavira site, you can see the photograph, it is archaeology. But see that who are the exponents? My very esteemed colleague in the geoheritage circuit, we have WhatsApp groups, is Dr. Rajiv Nigam. He is also a DSc from Aligarh Muslim University. And he retired as the chief scientist of Geological Oceanography Division, National Institute of Oceanography, Dona Paula, Goa. He has got a lot of publications to his credit. Really, he is a great marine geologist, and his main subject is micropaleontology. I'm also a marine geologist with 2 decades, so I consider him as a real leading figure. Now, coming to this Ramappa temple, here you have a gentleman who is a geologist who is showing 2 beakers of water and 2 rocks in the same beaker of water. I mean, in the beakers. You see the beaker on the table, the rock is floating, and the one in his hand, the rock is sunk. The one which is floating is the material or the brick used for constructing the top pagoda of the Ramappa temple. So remember that this gentleman is also a geologist. You see, there are very famous Indian geologists who are, you can call them as geoarchaeologists. Both of them are geoarchaeologists. Professor Panduranga Rao is a professor in NIIT Warangal in Telangana. So this brick is for the building of this. And in fact, there were so many temples competing for the UNESCO heritage tag. Ramappa temple, Professor Panduranga told me personally that it is because of these bricks which can float on water, they have reduced the weight of the pagoda. And this happened in 13th century. Remember, gentlemen, when this temple was being built in Telangana, Konark temple was being built on the coast of Odisha. Both are geo-heritage sites. I mean, UNESCO heritage sites. So I had the pleasure, along with so many other geologists, and you can see Professor Panduranga Rao by the side of his wife in red sari, and I was there taking a selfie, and my friends and colleagues, Sasha Rao, Satyan Narayana, who is also a member of our WhatsApp group, and T. Srinivasa Rao, they are there. Then we went there. We not only saw Ramappa, but we want to link up with geotourism of what is known as Pakhals, Proterozoic basin Pakhals. Anyway, so Now let us come back to Dehradun. Dehradun and Uttarakhand is our topic today. So, what is the nearest UNESCO heritage to Dehradun? Any answers? Yes, Nanda Devi and Valley of Flowers National Parks. There are two of them, not one, two of them. So, both are heritage sites. And then Dehradun is lucky that you have UNESCO Category 2 Center on World Natural Heritage Site Management and Training for the Asia Pacific region. Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun. Wildlife Institute of Dehradun is very famous. In fact, along with us in our WhatsApp group, we have Dr. S.N. Prasad, who is also, he belongs to Wildlife Institute. He has retired from it. Then now let's see Ghantaghar. See, this is the heart of Dehradun. I will give you a list of geoheritage from various institutes. Remember, geoheritage is not just geological heritage. I have talked until now about 2 archaeological sites, 1 ecological site or 2 ecological site, Valley of Flowers and all that. No geology until now. The archaeology is done by geology professors. So now let us see the institutes. Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, my own Geological Survey of India, Forest Research Institute, which is also a deemed university, Zoological Survey of India, then Archaeological Survey of India, Dehradun chapter. Then you have Uttarakhand Tourism, of course, Wildlife Institute of India, I already told you. So, as geologists, we should try to develop a synergy with all of them. Because geoheritage ultimately should lead us to establishment of UNESCO recognized geoparks. And geoparks have geological interest, geomorphological interest, ecological interest, archaeology, culture, anthropology, all this. Because after all this has come up from Mother Earth. Even geodiversity is very important. So I'm going to explain to you geodiversity and geotourism, and explain to you about Geoparks Network, UNESCO, show how smartphones can help you collect information. And 2 of your colleagues of Uttarakhand WhatsApp group, they have already collected some data. I will share that with you, and some track also made. Now, let us come to geodiversity. I'm not going to show you any slides on this. Now, you know, Dehradun is famous for lychees. Lychees are very famous in Dehradun. Now, lychees, do they belong to a particular lithology? I belong to Andhra Pradesh, wherein the sweetest of South Indian oranges, Mosambi, they are over Vempalle limestone of Kadapas. Vempalle limestone of Kadapas. You have the Vempalle limestone, you have orchards of oranges. Similarly, you all know what is red sandalwood. You see smuggling of red sandalwood and all that. And most of the red sandalwood, it is grown on Nagari quartzite of Kurnool's. Most of it. Almost you have Nagari quartzite, you have this red sandstones. Similarly, there is a geodiversity on which the Alfonso mangoes depend in the Ratnagiri West Coast Maharashtra area. So kindly see, you have lot of reserve forest area, lot of forested area. Try to make a geodiversity index, and then seek a biodiversity index from various departments you have. There are a lot of publications also. Superimpose one over them. This will be a good MSc dissertation work, if not PhD work for you. Okay. So I will explain to you now on geoheritage and geoparks. Now, I will give you some historical account and a perspective. A lot of discussion, failure of discussions, so many things have gone before the geoparks term itself has come into being. Before geological heritage is accepted as natural heritage by the UNESCO. 2015, UNESCO Global Geopark UGG label. This has come, remember it. You can go back home and UGG 2015, you Google it, you'll get it. Then the long process of negotiations between UNESCO and International Union of Geological Sciences, IUGS. I am today very much happy that Professor Dheeraj Mohan Banerjee, who holds office in this IUGS, is present in this webinar. So IUGS and the NGO Global Geopark Network, GGN. Today, UNESCO Global Geoparks are defined as single unified geographical areas where sites and landscapes of international geological significance are managed with a holistic concept of protection, education, and sustainable development. So now let's see geoparks around the world. So there is a list before you. And 41 geoparks are in China. You see, for an Indian, it makes sense if you say that in China so many things are there and we don't have. Yes, why we don't have a single geopark? These are the geoparks in China. And then, yes, these are the geoparks in Europe. And then, this is in the Western Hemisphere. And you can note it that in North America, there are no geoparks almost. Because, they have already national parks, they are good enough. So, if we see actually the chronology of events, I'm going to share this entire presentation with you. You can also see it at leisure. Remember, 1996-2004, Man and Biosphere, or the International Geological Correlation Program, IGCP, it is an acronym, were considered within UNESCO and eventually rejected for reasons. Find out in the Google it and find out. The second stage was 2004 to 2010, witnessed independent development and networking of geoparks in Europe and Asia. So that means when things were rejected, then Europe started making its own geoparks. Then in the third stage, finally 2011-2015, UNESCO agreed for global geoparks and a GGN label. So if you go back into history, of course, when it comes to history, it will be definitely something to do with Europe. 1668, there was a decree, and Duke Rodolph, this is the first in history, you can say, of geoheritage in 1668, 17th century in Germany. At that time, of course, at that time it was Germany, later on it became East Germany. This is the first one. And then this in United Kingdom, in Scotland, fossil stumps, 1887, that is in the 19th century, 330 million years old. So all this is there. So this is another account of it. And then UNESCO World Heritage Convention of 1972 explicitly included natural monuments, geological and physiographical formations, and natural sites within its definition of the natural heritage. This is very important. Earlier, it was not considered. Okay, since 1989, so many things have happened. UNESCO, IUGS, IUCN have been working towards a projected global indicative list of geological sites, which are known as geosites. So, come back to India, our own country, and the national geological monuments. The first of its kind is by Dr. M.S. Krishnan, 1940, before independence. It is in Tamil Nadu. And then the second one, this is the closest an NGM has come to Dehradun, I believe. It is in Saketi Fossil Park, 1974. I'm very happy that a person who is right from its beginning, he is into this Saketi Park, he is there, he is one of my very precious audience. Dr. V.P. Mishra is there. I'm very happy about that. Now, let us see, actually, around the country, I'm going to a website I maintain. This is a website I maintain. It is known as Indian Geoparks. And I have already WhatsApped you, and most of my friends from other GeoHeritage group, they have seen it. Now, if you go to the layers, so I will put off the other layers such that you can see the NGMs and NGMs alone. So with this, I'm also introducing you to this site. So you can see them. So right from Kerala, Kerala has got what is known as Varkala. You see, this is a Varkala cliff section. It is a wonderful section. Google it. You will get a lot of information. And then, of course, Uttarakhand, and this is the one. This is the Saketi Park. This is the Saketi Park in Himachal Pradesh. Then let's go to the northeast. Yes, these are the ophiolates of Pungro, Nagaland. So all the NGMs, National Geological Monuments, they are here. And you can see this is the Nephilim Synod. You know, when I was taken from Dehradun for a tour to Rajasthan, myself, Amrish Chatterjee, and Natyal, we all went to this outcrop. They are all there as audience for this. So just for nostalgia, you know. We were there at Kishangarh, and with me, Dr. Navani is 1 year senior to me, and probably U.S. Rawat is also there. We were all together. This was at Kishangarh. So I request you, gentlemen, you can see it. This website can work even on your mobile phones. And this has got not just for example, there is a very good publication known as Intact Monogram. You see, all these others, these are from that monogram. So you can see this very close to the Ramappa temple. You have the Pandavula Gutta. It is another nice site which should come into GeoHeritage. So Intact is a organization. You have a chapter of Intact right at Dehradun. Please contact them. I request you. They have done wonderful work. The first ever GeoHeritage webinar was conducted at Andhra University, Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. and my own colleague and friend, Professor D.R.S. Reddy of Andhra University, and my colleague, Dr. S.K. Vathavan, who retired as Director General, Geological Survey of India. They both took initiative, and red sands of red sands of Vishakhapatnam were given the status of National Geological Monuments. So you can see them. So in this, if you click on this black balloon, what happens is the computer or mobile finds out the location and will take you where you are. If I click it now, you know where it goes. Then it will ask me to allow, and I'm right here at this place. I'll reduce it further, you will know it. I'm at a latitude of 17 degrees, whereas you are at, most of the persons at Dehradun are at 30 degrees. Okay. So this actually helps you right on your mobile. If you are somewhere, you click on this balloon, black balloon, and you can find out. And similarly, there are a lot of other heritage sites in it. You can see all of them. In fact, all our webinars are also there. We conducted webinars. You can see our webinars there. This is the webinar conducted not by our group, but a very famous geologist, Dr. Dhananjay Mohade. This webinar is about dinosaurs in India. Similarly, we had several webinars. You can, in fact, see all of them. You can see near Indore, a webinar conducted by Vishal Verma, a very, very important person, and he's a real geo guide. He's only a teacher, but he has got such tenacity towards geoheritage. It is infectious. And all of us, our groups, people were infected with it. Anyway, this is a very good infection. We are in a pandemic. So this is the better part of infection. Okay, I'll go back to my slideshow. So after showing the Indian geoparks, you can see that much of the geoheritage is there. So when you make some geoheritage in Uttarakhand, I can even put it on that. So geoheritage, geoconservation for India. Indian geoparks, a concept. Remember, Indian geoparks is a coinage of mine. I have coined it because geoparks is a reserved term. And you can only call something a geopark if it has got UNESCO recognition. Otherwise, you should not call. It is just like you cannot call any educational institution as a university. UGC has to recognize. Just like that, geoparks have to be recognized by UNESCO. Then only it will be given a status of a global geopark. So until then, wherever we have good geotourism and geoheritage done, let us call them as Indian geoparks. Establishing Indian geoparks is for conserve geoheritage, imparting knowledge in geology to public. An Indian geopark is equal to geology, archaeology, anthropology, environmental science plus culture. Some Indian geoparks may seek UNESCO geopark approval. Then they will be labeled as geopark. For example, let us see. In Dehradun, you really have a fantastic chance. You already have heritage sites, Valley of Flowers and all that. So if you can make some geo circuits, geotourism tracks, very close to it, definitely we can make an Indian geopark out of it, and a very educative tourism, it will be done of a geotourism. So let's try to make it. Now come to another very important angle. Nowadays, we must take the best advantage of the technology available. And the best technology available is in everybody's pocket, mind you. You go to anybody who is, say, who is a graduate, you will find he's having a smartphone. Smartphone. And the name itself says smartphone. So many free and open source softwares are available on the smartphone. And after getting into geoheritage, I also trained many young students in how we can use smartphones for recording geoheritage. So you can see all of these things. Maps.me is for recording. The simplest software is Maps.me. And slightly complicated than that, and elaborate software is Voice-Command. It is like GIS data on a smartphone. And then the most important software for us today is EpiCollect 5. And then OpenStreetCam and Mapillary. I'm going to demonstrate to you right now EpiCollect 5 and Mapillary. And what is more, I'm going to demonstrate to you data from Dehradun. So let's see it. This is EpiCollect 5 data, but this is not Dehradun's data. This is from data from a geotour conducted by a very, very famous geologist couple from Pune, Dr. Sudha and Nataraj Vaddadi. Both are really fantastic geologists, and they conduct a lot of museums and geotourism tracks and all that. So I was in one of their geotourism tracks about 3 years ago or just before the pandemic. So, and this is the data collected on EpiCollect during that. And you see, this is a very important thing. Can you see the lava tube in the center and a number 4 is there? This is the lava tube. We, in fact, Madam Dr. Sudha Vaddadi, she is a retired geologist of Geological Survey of India, and Nataraj Vaddadi, they both took us there. And they showed us this wonderful lava tube. That means there is a tunnel inside and lava was flowing through it. And we recorded using a smartphone. And this is a very good place, geoheritage place known as Nigoj. Nowadays, you know, you tell about a place and most of the tourists will tap it on their smartphone. On their smartphone, they will immediately try to see it and the wiki page of Nigoj will open. You give them any amount of lecture, they will get knowledge also from the wiki. So these are the realities. We live in an era of internet and smartphones. Let us make the best utilization of that. Our young people can definitely make utilization of that. Now let's see how we can do it for Dehradun. Now, before going to establish geotourism and geoheritage and Indian geoparks, and then, God willing, the first ever geopark in India, let us see, when you want to do geoheritage, there are two approaches, bottom up approach and top down approach. Bottom down approach means it is going from the bottom. Let's see. So identify tourist tracks near geoheritage. Suppose Sahasradhara is a geoheritage. It is a place with a lot of tourist footfall. So is Maldevta. So is Bhatta Falls. Name many of them. They are all geoheritage sites. So there, identify geotourist tracks which connect. And then modify tracks to fit our geology. That means tourists will get information on geology also. on geology also, and this also, tourism also. So then make souvenirs, train local guides. You see, if you can get graduates geology, postgraduate geology, who can take it as a hobby, fine. But also you can make the locals trained. In intermediate pass can definitely train them. But when it comes to top-down approach, you meet a minister, you meet a tourist official, and take their interview, show them a presentation of the wonderful geoheritage you have around Dehradun, and then request them to build infrastructure. For this, money is required. Maybe if you are lucky, they may help you in doing that. But in the meantime, while the infrastructure is being made, the bottom to top approach can give you a working Indian geopark. Definitely, a bottom to top approach is much easier. And then a working Indian geopark, it will enhance with time. And then, God willing, we will have a geopark from the top down approach. But it is important that both of them should go together. When you have a geotourism circuit, you can take the help of tourism people to really go by their bus to extend the tourism into geoheritage area. Okay, now I'm coming to the webinars we have conducted. So many webinars, right from the Himalayas to Karnataka, uh, and then to Assam and to Maharashtra, north, south, east, west, we have conducted. So they are all available. The catchword is Indian Geoparks. The YouTube channel for it is Indian Geoparks. You can see all of them. You can read them, all of them you can see. And from very versatile speakers, they are done. So you can know that how it can be done. And the very first webinar is by my guru, Dr. O.N. Bhargava. He has retired from Geological Survey of India, and he's probably in Himalayan geology is one of the real doyens of Himalayan geology. Please, that is the very first webinar we are lucky to have. See it. Then we had, if you see at the bottom, how to collect data. Even those webinars are there. So the mobile phone software I was showing, you can get from this. And then you can have the second phase of webinars on Saketi Fazil Park, and then ROD, Bengal Geotourism and all that, from my very, very good colleagues and friends. During ROD Geopark, we have done some amount of innovation. So even we tried to make a signage. Signage is extremely important. And you can see these black QR codes. You use a smartphone on the QR code, you can get more information. So this kind of signages can be made at any geotourism to attract tourists and place them at airport, railway station, bus stand, tourism hotspots. Think of them, do it. And then, yes, because it is at Bengal, you can put it at Calcutta Museum also, which is just next to our headquarters, Geological Survey of India. Make such wonderful pamphlets which can be folded and give it to tourists. They will be so happy. All the information with QR codes and all that. That means from this semi-digital pamphlet, they can go into the actual site itself, website. So it is such an important thing. Then after that, I wish that for all geoheritage spots across the world. We can do it. Now, making geotourism, an Indian geopark creates ecosystem for geotourism. Indian geopark is an insurance policy for geoheritage. Remember, responsible tourism is what we should tell people. And if you take people to fossil sites, it is very pertinent that you should see that they will not collect any fossil from the site. And we should make available fiberglass models of the fossils so that they can take them home. This is very important. So, with Indian geoparks and geoheritage and geotourism, we should see that there is a responsible tourism and it will act as a insurance policy for our geoheritage. Then Indian geopark is a multi-thematic with geology as a crucial part. Then let us see how we can plan for Dehradun geotourism. Now I have come to the last part of it. So this is EpiCollect 5, and with this EpiCollect 5, geotag photos and information. You see, even I myself, I am more than 7 decades old. So I have a lot of old photos, fantastic geological photos. Even in my tour report, at that time we used to call it tour report. Dissertation, now people call it. I have photographs which I would like to now geotag them. So that can be done with this EpiCollect. You need not, in this pandemic, you need not go anywhere. Sit right in your drawing room and geotag all your photographs. So the software's name is EpiCollect. Then another wonderful thing is make tracks of all the important geoheritage sites. And then with this software, Mapillary, you can actually view the tracks. This is something totally, I think for many of you, totally new. This is something like Street View in Google Maps when you are abroad. In India, Street View is not allowed. But it is not Street View here. We should use it for actually reaching the outcrop with a trek from the nearest roadhead. Well, I will show you each one of them. So this is actually the data created by us. We have tagged some photographs. Many of the photographs, you see, they are not old photographs here. I have collected from internet. And remember, whenever you are collecting photographs from internet, there is a possibility that without knowing, you might violate the copyrights of the photographs. So what I would suggest is there is a license known as Creative Commons for photographs. So when you want to take a photograph, always in the Google, make a word search including Creative Commons. That photograph is meant for your usage. Creative Commons. Okay. Now another very important thing is, now I click on this, all these links I have shared with the Dehradun WhatsApp group of Uttarakhand Geotourism or Geoheritage. You people can see it. So this is the actual form. And in this form, there is a wiki link. You see, this is a wiki link. You see, up to this, that is a wiki link. And this is a YouTube link. If I want, I can copy paste link in the browser and I can see the wiki and also the video. And another thing what I have done is, I have also edited some data collected by one of the students. Okay, it is about Sonia Tyagi, who has nicely collected this photo and put it here. Khalsi. But I added the wiki of Khalsi and also a YouTube here. You can see it. So I'm just suggesting to Sonia that Sonia, you can add this also. You cannot click here, but you can copy paste. So this package,
Yes, sir.
good enough, good enough. Got it. Yeah. So this package is so wonderful. You can get the actual map of it. And all of you, my friends from Geo Heritage Uttarakhand group, you all have the link on your mobiles itself. You can see it. Imagine the same link you provide to the tourists, and the tourists can actually see it before they go there. Don't you think that using the available smartphone technology, we can do really improve the tourism, which I'm sure the other tourism, tourism departments probably are not using to the extent that it should be used. Okay, so this is the map view, and you click on any of this. You all have it with you, and you will get the form. And you will also get the form here with the data. Here also you can take copy paste. Remember it. Okay, I will go back to the table view, which I started. And this is about AP Collect. And Sonia Tyagi and Harvind, HR Harvind. He is a Tamilian from the southernmost part of India, the mainland India, from Cape Comorin. He also has a link with Dehradun. So they are both trained in it. And if you want, a couple of days, and you can also become experts in this. Okay. Now let me go back. So I've shown you AP Collect. Now I'll show you this route. It won't take much time. This Google Map route also I have given you. It is just to show you that a route can be shared. It is not that this route can be used right away, because the route is from Ghantaghar to Ghantaghar. You see, and maybe it may take days to actually travel in this route. I just want to tell you that this route can be used. Nothing more than that. So I just want to tell you that much. So now after this route, the very, very important thing, I want you to, wherever you have outcrops of geology, let them be fossil sites or anything, this wonderful software can be used. This very wonderful software can be used. Okay, this is known as mapillary, just like capillary, and you can take even satellite imagery, then you can see houses. This is the thing. Okay, I will put it somewhere here. Okay, now you see what happens. I click on play and just see what happens. A person is going in that route, and the entire thing is mapped. So if you actually use this mapillary, then you can guide tourists to go to the outcrop. Mapillary, when it is being used, you don't need internet, because in remote areas of Himalayas, you may not get it. Plan first geotourism circuit. Mix all ingredients. Timing is paramount. Because if you give people to come at 8 o'clock to the bus in the morning, you will go up to 6 o'clock in the evening, let's say. Then you will show them stop 1, stop 2, stop 3, stop 4, like that. In between, you must have time for tea, time for lunch, time for afternoon snack. And also it is very important that there must be very good toilet facilities. And if there are no good toilet facilities, you have to warn the tourists. so that they will be prepared for that. You see, some geological exposures may not have toilet facilities unless you make some makeshift, or in GSI we call them end tents. Some tents are pitched and all that. So remember, tourism goes with the love to tour, fun and frolic. So geotourism is no difference. So you have to mix all these ingredients. ये शरबत का प्याला इंडियन जियो पार्क्स का, mix archaeology, anthropology, environment, ecology, all into it. That's why you see I have shown nicely folded rocks. Then there is archaeology is for the Golconda Fort, and the environment is Chilka Lake, migratory birds, and then you have cave paintings, anthropology, and archaeology also. So remember, all of them have to be mixed for making Indian geoparks, and benefits from Indian geoparks. They will improve tourism. We can call it geotourism, benefiting local prosperity, will create employment for geotourist guides. Geotourist guides can be the locals who seek employment. वो बस में आके वो बैठ जाएंगे and वो locality सब दिखा के फिर निकल जाएंगे. Something like that. So geotourism can also give employment prospect. And then you can have tourism kiosks and badges for the geotourists. And of course, archaeology, tourists, many are available already. So will lead to awareness of geoheritage, environment, geoconservation, and a responsible tourism. With this, thank you very much. Vanakkam, Jai Hind, Adab. So I believe that the discussion can start now, Biyani Saab.
I must say that Ravi has presented a very good talk. I mean, excellent. In fact, part of it I've already heard before, but very good for the young people.
It is for the very young people to react, as Professor Dheeraj Mohan Banerjee Saab has already said. The group has got a lot of young people. So,
I could see there number
please.
of young people are there.
yeah, there are many young people. Biyani Saab, thoda sa.
Biyani ji,
Sir, you were talking about the floating stone and Ramappa temple. What was
Correct,
that?
It is actually, sir, in 13th century, when Ramappa temple was built, they had a technology with which they could make bricks by mixing a lot of what you can say rice or paddy husk, and the resultant bricks were so light, something like our geological pumice stone.
Okay.
You put them in water and they float. So for the pagoda of Ramappa temple, they have taken care that it should not be too heavy. Because I was taken on a tour by Professor Panduranga Rao. Inside there was some kind of a deformation already inside the Ramappa temple due to the weight of the temple. And he told me that seeing that, it is likely that they have planned for a very light pagoda. And Professor Panduranga Rao, both myself and Professor Reddy of Andhra University, who are also our members of GeoHeritage Group, we both are trying for a talk by him. I think he will give you more insight into this aspect.
Okay, sir. Any more question?
I see Dr. Rasik Ravindra. Namaskar, Saab.
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार सबको.
And Dr. Narendra Prasad, sir, are you available, sir? He is from Wildlife Institute, Dehradun. He works there. Maybe Sonia Tyagi, you start asking questions then, because you know there are a lot of heavyweights here. In the audience, lot of heavyweights are there. And these are budding geologists who are just in the final year of MSc. Even I would have been a bit nervous, you know, really talk in such a gathering. Really. But Sonia Tyagi, don't worry. Chai, please go ahead.
गुड
Talk
इवनिंग
about that.
सर। सर एक क्वेश्चन पूछना है सर मुझे। सर जैसे हम जो टूरिज्म स्टार्ट करेंगे तो सर मेरा पॉइंट है कि हम देहरादून के स्टार्टिंग से चल के मतलब एक डायरेक्शन में जाएं तो ज़्यादा सही से रहेगा सर। तो क्या ये पॉसिबल हो
सही।
सकता है सर?
डेफिनेटली हमने खाली आपको गूगल में एक रूट बना के उसको शेयर कर सकते हैं करके हमने दिखाया। मैं तो
अच्छा।
कितने साल हो गया देहरादून मेरा शायद 15 साल पहले की 2015 6 साल पहले था मैं देहरादून में। तो यू नो बेटर देन मी, so change the route. The route I have
Okay,
given
okay.
is only to tell you that such a route can be made and can be very easily shared. And you can put it on a website. Then tourists can actually choose the routes they are interested.
सोनिया जी के सजेशन क्या है रूट का? सोनिया जी आपका सजेशन क्या है रूट का? कौन सा रूट? और
सर अगर हम सर मेरा पॉइंट ये है कि अगर बाहर से कोई आता है कि देहरादून में तो हम स्टार्टिंग से ही वहीं से मतलब स्टार्ट करते हैं अपना जियो टूरिज्म का और फिर वहां से आगे बढ़ते हुए सीक्वेंस में चलेंगे।
बहुत सही कहा आपने। आपको तो मोहन से शुरू करना चाहिए जहाँ पे कि बैकथ्रस्ट है।
Yes, sir.
यस सर मैं भी यही बोल रही
हाँ
थी।
बिल्कुल मोहन से शुरू करना चाहिए।
और फिर सर पूरा मसूरी और आगे तक भी जहाँ तक जा सकते हैं उत्तराखंड में, फिर वहां से घूम के फिर वापस मतलब उत्तराखंड मतलब सॉरी देहरादून के बाहर निकल जाएंगे तो वो एक राउंड वाला बन जाएगा कि सॉरी
हम
मैं
लोगों का
अच्छे से
क्या
बोल नहीं
है,
पा रही।
हम लोगों का सोनिया जी, हम लोगों
Yes,
का
sir.
एक दिन एक यूनिट होता है जो टूरिज्म। एक दिन का टूर एक यूनिट होता है क्योंकि टूरिस्ट आते हैं ना।
यस सर।
तो जनरली नाइट हाल्ट वाला टूर इनिशियली ना करे तो बेहतर।
ठीक है बिल्कुल।
तो आप सुबह स्टार्ट करेंगे कोई 8 बजे और शाम को 6 बजे उनको एक अच्छी जगह जहां उनको खाना वाना मिलेगा व जहां से वो वापस अपना जहां ठहरे हुए हैं वहां जा सकते हैं। ऐसा आपको टूर बनाना है। स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट शुड बी एक्सेसिबल to the tourists and ending point should be something from which they can go to places where they actually live. A tourist lodge भी हो सकता है। तो दिस इज इम्पोर्टेंट। बीच में आप मोहन के पास जो फॉस्फोरेट है वो दिखाना चाहते हैं तो बढ़िया है।
फॉस्फोरेट
और
नहीं है,
वहाँ या
फॉस्फोरेट नहीं फॉस्फोरेट नहीं, वहाँ पे शिवालिक और उसका कॉन्टैक्ट है।
शिवालिक कांटेक्ट कितना फॉस्फोरेट तो मसूरी के पास
वो तो मसूरी
है। मसूरी के पास है। तो आप ऐसा बनाइए, सरल बनाइए। पहले पहले आप 5-6 लोग एक कार में जाइए एंड उसको देखिए। थिंक दैट यू आर टूरिस्ट,
ओके
you don't love geology but you want to learn something new. So you should not make geotourism only for geologists. You should make it for the general tourists because 10 में से करीब 4-5 tourists they would like their children to be exposed to some scientific ideas. जैसा देखिए सोनिया जी, आपको मैं एक नई चीज बताता हूँ। मेरे ख्याल से ये नया नहीं है आपके लिए। अभी देखिए गूगल पहले ऐसा था, एक माइक्रोफोन दिया है तो आप अपने मोबाइल फोन से बात करेंगे तो वो खोजना शुरू कर देगा। आपने देखा है ना उसको?
यस सर।
उसके बगल में एक कैमरा आइकन है, आपने उसको ट्राई किया? एक कैमरा आइकन है गूगल का सर्च में जो स्मार्टफोन
यस
पे है।
सर।
अगर वो कैमरा आइकन को आप दबा के किसी फूल और पौधे के पास ले जाके वो एक शॉट लेंगे, गूगल विल इंटरप्रेट एंड गिव यू व्हाट इट इज।
जैसे गूगल लेंस,
यस,
इट्स नेम इज गूगल लेंस।
वेरी करेक्ट, वेरी
या
करेक्ट। So you see, ecology has become such a easy thing for us, at least to know what it is. So this latest
Yes, sir.
technology का जो aspects है, really you are all young people in the right time. हम लोगों के पास GPS भी नहीं था. अरे कंप्यूटर तो बहुत दूर की बात है. And you have everything smart made for you. And it is only a matter of time that you can bring success to geotourism. And don't shy away from asking questions. I wish somebody else also asks questions. Narendra Prasad.
हाँ रवि कुमार गाరు good evening.
Very good
Excellent.
evening. Let me introduce Dr. Narendra Prasad to this gathering. He is ex-Wildlife Institute Dehradun. He has retired. He has retired from Salim Ali Institute of Ornithology as principal scientist. And he is an ecology man. And he has given us a webinar on Western Ghats ecology along with Padma Bhushan Madhav Gadgil. So I request him to talk to the young people of Dehradun about ecology. Prasad sir, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be reassociated with Dehradun because I was there for quite some time in Dehradun, and as Ravi Kumar Garu has said that it's a very important place for geotourism activity to begin with. And he has already given an excellent suggestion. You start off with a small car of your own and take some kind of a reconnaissance tour and see what possibilities lie. I would also suggest that there are a lot of environment, ecology, wildlife people who would join the bandwagon, provided you take them in right earnest and say this is what you got in mind. So there are, two things are there. One is two specific suggestions, and then maybe some suggestions for geoparks. One is that some kind of a nodal agency. I mean, it's not an official thing. Geoparks kind of a thing. You can start off with anyone. Need not be an official organization, but say Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology. Can it be sort of motivated or sort of lured in a sense to begin this kind of reconnaissance kind of a tour with others who are DBS college or whatever, so that some beginning can be made. It can be to begin with the COVID times, like what Sudha and other people have done in Western Ghats. You can begin with that in Himalayas. Already a lot of information is there. And secondly, the thing is that shivaliks, it's very important and they're very fragile, environmentally very fragile, as everybody knows that. And there are a lot of important areas, ecologically speaking, tourism point of view, from conservation point of view, from geology and so on. So some focus need to be given so that it strengthens the cause of conservation, both the geoconservation as well as environmental conservation and so on. So is it possible? I mean, this is a question for thinking, actually. Loud thinking of on my part. So this is all I have for the questions part. And then as Ravi Kumar Garu has said that, some kind of a preliminary activity can be begun with these youngsters. You just take one or two cars and then, you do some reconnaissance and, start off this in the lines as suggested by him, with using the smartphones and things like that. Thanks.
Biyani sir, we are not able to hear you.
Since we are
Yeah,
towards the end of the seminar, it was an excellent seminar. Of course, we are immensely benefited by this. So I request our honorary president, Dr. S.K. Parcha, also to propose the vote of thanks.
So on behalf of our Uttarakhand Geoheritage chapter, we are highly thankful to Mr. Ravi Kumar for giving such an excellent lecture and for such presentation, and that which motivates all of us. And we are equally thankful to all the senior people, those who have attended from the very beginning, and all the youngsters, those who were here in between, and those who are here online also. they got lot much benefited. They have enthusiasm. They know the things. And when we have certain meetings they attended last year also and prior to this, and all these students were so enthusiastic. They said that we can work at village level also. We will motivate the people. We will try to go to the interior, and we will try to involve the local people also in this, so that it can be a movement in the Uttarakhand. As you rightly said, we have a lot of geological spots and tourist places in the Uttarakhand, but they are not well explored. There are a lot of problems. They are now their road connectivity and roads and climate is also not so feasible. But your lecture and your this mobile apps, I hope they will fully utilize them. As Tyagi, she was asking the question to you that about the route maps and other things. They will now explore these, what you have given them, the different tools to use their smartphones. I hope with the use of their smartphones, they will utilize it very well and will be beneficial for them to explore them. And in fact, nowadays the problem is they are thinking that geology, after that, what will be the job? I think it will create a job also, and not for them. They will create job for others also, which will be a very beneficial for them. Those, most of the students from the remote areas, they have that geology, they have left perhaps geology, they are not in touch. When they will get to know that we can explore our areas, you said that rightly, that if we have, for example, we have a lot of successions like that in the Uttarakhand, all over. They will be now benefited by your lecture. And if you will share this lecture to them, and we will share them to all, so that they can utilize it, and then can also see what are the other possibilities, what people have done in other parts of the country, world. You have given the whole history about the geoheritage sites, UNESCO geoheritage sites, and all about Indian sites. And then we have 40 sites which have been now recognized, so that they can get motivated. With these words, I am highly thankful to you and to all the senior people here which have attended today's lecture, and it was much beneficial to us all. Thank you very much, sir. We have no words to express our sincere thanks to you and to all my senior colleagues here.